Gun shops these days don't just have a steady flow, they're practically vibrating with activity. Places that used to have a few camo-wearing regulars leaning on the counter are now filled with a whole new crowd. Stay-at-home moms in running shoes, tech workers still wearing their ID lanyards, and seniors who once swore they'd never go near a gun. In this video, we're going to dive in to why millions of ordinary Americans, the same folks who meal prep with quinoa and binge home renovation shows, are arming themselves. Convinced the next national headline could explode into something far worse. Not long ago, you could size someone up and make a pretty good guess if they had a pistol tucked away at home. The stereotype was plain: middle-aged, rural, white, probably drove a lifted truck and had a dog named Ruger. But that all changed in the chaos of 2020. More than 22 million first-time buyers bulldozed the old narrative. It wasn't just the usual suspects, it was soccer moms, grad students, Uber Eats drivers, and elderly Asian men who still watch cable with the volume maxed. Suddenly, the hottest demographic in gun sales wasn't a red county in Georgia, it was women, people of color, recent immigrants, and members of the LGBTQ+ community. TikTok got flooded with baby pink SIGs, Glock 19s and glittery Cerakote finishes, and grinning newbies showing off bruises from their very first trip to the firing line. Even the cranky old-timer behind the counter who used to grumble about tactical Barbie guns now sells pastel-colored carry pistols and imported 12-gauge shotguns to grandmas learning what the term dry fire means. And no, the wave didn't stop when the pandemic panic cooled down. Just last year, Americans bought over 15 million firearms. That's enough to equip every soldier in the 10 largest global militaries, twice over. About 1 in 4 of those buyers were brand new to the process. That's nearly 4 million folks filling out a background check for the very first time. In years prior, maybe 10% of gun sales went to rookies. That number has more than doubled. Clearly, something shifted. This wasn't about panic buying toilet paper or blowing stimulus checks on impulse buys, it was fear, plain and simple. As grocery prices soared and job cuts swept through corporate America, people watched their neighborhoods in news footage turn into something out of a war zone. When campus protests got out of control, parents in the suburbs didn't wait for the chaos to hit their cul-de-sac, they headed straight for the gun store. Personal protection remains king. Around 70% of these new owners told surveyors they bought a firearm for self-defense. That's nearly 15.5 million new customers for holster makers, concealed carry instructors, and YouTube creators explaining why limp wrists jam semi-autos. Viral clips of broad daylight carjackings, security cams catching burglars, testing patio doors, and live-streamed robberies at gas stations left no doubt in the average mind. Help might not arrive in time. Compact, optic-ready pistols like the P365 and the Hellcat are vanishing from shelves because they fit seamlessly into yoga pants and tucked-in office blouses. Red Dot training classes now include minivan moms right alongside the beard-wearing gun nerds, all trying to master slide racking. Add in the fallout from police departments, short on funds and long on response times, and the message is loud and clear: your safety is in your own hands now. But let's not pretend it's just about stopping a mugger. Roughly 24% of first-time buyers, more than 5 million since 2020, including nearly 1 million last year, say they made the leap because of fears tied to political violence. Let that number sink in. These aren't people doom-scrolling for fun. These are Americans trading cash for iron and copper because they genuinely believe unrest might land on their block. January 6 plays in loops on mainstream news. Courthouse standoffs, fill the feeds on independent media. Everyone's pushing the same message. The powder keg is primed. I've spoken with lifelong progressives who bought AR-15s because they're terrified of a white supremacist parade rolling into their neighborhood. I've met rock-solid conservatives who put steel armor in the family car because they're sure federal agents are coming door to door. It's not just one side or the other, it's a bipartisan fear no one saw coming. Racial strife adds another layer. Around 17% of that 22 million wave, roughly 3.8 million people, say they armed up because of concerns about race-driven violence. That number includes black families who watched police arrive hours late during the George Floyd riots, Asian American shop owners shaken by anti-Asian attacks, and Hispanic mothers who now flinch at subway push assaults being labeled as random. The National African American Gun Association has doubled its local chapters in under 3 years. AAPI, organized range days, fill up so fast they have to book overflow lanes. Political talking points about protecting vulnerable communities tend to fall apart when those very communities are the ones lined up at the counter asking for a 9mm they can Do the math on just last year. About 1 million folks bought a gun because of political fear, and another 675,000 said racial tension was their motivator. That's over 1.6 million homes gearing up quietly, preparing for a future where the HOA rules might not matter if the barricades go up. And don't think longtime gun owners were immune. I picked up a few new tools in 2020 myself, you probably did too. We all like to think we're rational and calm, but a few extra magazines and crates of Tula steel case found their way into safes because, deep down, we could all feel the temperature rising. America isn't just divided, it's zeroing its sights at 25 yards just in case the line snaps. What we're seeing today is the collapse of institutional confidence, and folks are feeling it everywhere. Poll after poll from Gallup shows Americans are steadily losing faith in Congress, the justice system, the press, law enforcement, and even their churches. When that trust erodes, people start looking for a safety net. For many, that backup plan comes in the form of a firearm. The mood online has shifted from curiosity to preparedness. With YouTube channels pumping out gray man tactics, stay low profile, carry discreetly, and keep a rifle in a plain-looking bag just in case. Urban bug-out kits are racking up views from people who used to think prep meant meal planning. Meanwhile, ammunition manufacturers are running full throttle, but good luck finding full shelves for major calibers. That box of 9mm brass cased rounds that sold for 13 cents each back in 2019? Now you're lucky to score them at 40 cents a pop. What's more surprising is how this trend is breaking apart the old alliances that shaped the gun control debate. In places like Virginia and Washington state, you've got folks from historically anti-gun communities showing up to protest magazine bans. The old claim that such laws protect minority neighborhoods doesn't hold much water when members of those communities are saying, "We'll protect ourselves. Thanks." In Minnesota and Ohio, women applying for carry permits doubled in just 12 months, and they're speaking out, publishing op-eds against so-called gun-free zones that leave them vulnerable when walking the dog after dark. The idea that the Second Amendment is only for rural conservatives is fading fast. Just ask the Chicago hairstylist who streamed her concealed carry class and picked up 80,000 views before Monday rolled around. But all this enthusiasm comes with serious risks. A lot of first-time buyers don't get proper instruction. Some skip over the 4 basic safety rules, run full metal jacket rounds through untested guns, or stash loaded handguns next to a toddler's crib. Firearms don't care how good your intentions are. Accidental discharges don't care who you voted for. That's why those of us who've been around the block need to step up as mentors, not gatekeepers. When your neighbor brings home his first 15-round polymer pistol, take him to the range. Show him why trigger discipline matters more than which brand is on the slide. Point him toward credible training, whether it's through the NRA, the USCCA, or a local instructor running safety classes out of a VFW hall. Without training, a gun becomes more of a lucky charm than a real tool. Interestingly, churches are stepping into the void. Congregations that once argued whether carrying in the sanctuary was sacrilegious are now forming volunteer security teams that train with local deputies every few months. Families feel safer knowing someone's watching the parking lot on Sunday mornings. Preparedness doesn't have to mean paranoia. It can just mean being a responsible neighbor. The same church that hands out canned food during hurricane season can just as easily host a handgun safety night for women. Being morally grounded and knowing how to shoot aren't mutually exclusive. So the real question isn't whether Americans will keep buying guns, we will. The bigger concern is how we manage this massive shift in ownership, especially when fear is a driving force. Every camp thinks it's standing guard over freedom. Every side believes the other is ready to strip it away. That's a recipe for tense standoffs, particularly when millions are carrying concealed and more than half believe unrest is inevitable. What we need is a serious, grown-up discussion about de-escalation, not disarmament. Telling nervous families to give up their only sense of safety while crime rises is like asking airline passengers to ditch life vests because the pilot promises smooth skies ahead. Folks don't trust that pilot anymore, and frankly, the pilot hasn't earned that trust. The smart path forward is responsibility paired with knowledge. Own your firearm, but train until safe handling becomes automatic. Keep it secured unless there's a legitimate threat. Start community programs neighborhood. Watch efforts that work with law enforcement. Range meetups, where veteran shooters teach beginners. CERT teams that include first aid and emergency comms alongside shooting skills. Know the laws in your state. Don't rely on instincts when you're betting your freedom on a defensive shooting. A fancy holster and quick draw mean nothing if a bad decision lands you behind bars for manslaughter. Now, I know some folks will hear this and think I'm pining for a doomsday scenario. That's not it. I've got a family, a mortgage, and a day job like anyone else. I'd rather our biggest stress be whether the bakery runs out of chocolate croissants. But we don't get to choose the times we live in. The data speaks loud and clear. More than 22 million new gun owners since 2020. 70% say it's for personal protection. Nearly 25% fear political unrest. Around 1 in 5 are concerned about racially motivated violence. Last year alone, nearly 4 million Americans joined the ranks of gun owners, about 1 million due to politics, and more than 600,000 because of race-related concerns. Owning a firearm is starting to feel like earthquake insurance in California. You hope you never need it, but not having one feels careless. So, what fact hit you the hardest? Were you surprised that liberal city folks are lining up for concealed carry licenses? Or that ammo still sells out, even at triple the pre-pandemic price? Let me know in the comments respectfully. Maybe tell us about your own first firearm. Hit that like button if this struck a chord. Share the video with someone who still thinks a baseball bat and good vibes are all you need. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's next. We'll be unpacking the quiet ammo drought that's starting to take shape: choked imports, shuttered smelters, and new regulations waiting to squeeze supply. Until then, stay sharp and keep training. Thanks for being here.